Hello, hello. Welcome once again. My name is Angela Hendricks, and this is Remnant Mentality Ministries. So, today, let me tell you, I wanted to just come on and I wanted to share with y'all something that I do. And I guess I was doing it kind of like out of a routine because it's something I started a few years ago. Well, okay, let me just get into it. First off, I set my alarm clock for midnight. I set my phone for midnight. And so no matter where I am, no matter what I'm doing, if I fall asleep, I always have this alarm set to midnight, right? And so when it goes off, the first thing I do is just say thank you. I didn't think anything about it. I started a few years ago because I wanted to be able to give God my first fruit. So as soon as the new day started, I wanted to just prioritize it by saying thank you, by saying thank you to the Lord. So even if I'm asleep, it wakes me up so that I can say thank you. All right. So I began to, see this verse in the Bible about, giving God thanks at midnight in Psalms. And this is why, we need to read things in context, because for me, I did it because I wanted to give God my first fruit. I know that as soon as I wake up in the morning, before I open my eyes, I say thank you. Before my feet hit the floor, before I know that I'm even able to walk, talk, whatever, or see, I say thank you first thing in the morning. So why not give him the first thing in the morning, which is at midnight? And I just say thank you. That's what the verse said. I'll tell him thank you at midnight for his righteous laws and judgments. So I'm like, okay, midnight it is. Well, guess what? It's good to read in context, because as I read it in context, he was actually saying something else. He was actually going through a traumatic time, and he started to reprioritize his whole life. All right? Because guess what? The Bible tells us that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning, right? So if we know that joy comes in the morning, but there is nighttime, there's a midnight. Midnight being the darkest time of the night. Like, my priority of just telling God thank you, giving him my first fruit, was good. But then when I read this in context, this section of Psalms 119 in context, I realized that he was prioritizing his life. He was going through a traumatic season. And as he was going through this traumatic season, he began to realize what was most important to him. And it's the same thing with us, because we don't realize what's important to us until things start missing. You start coming up missing in our lives that we thought were important to us. It's not until we start losing things that we start to prioritize or realize what's really, really important to us, right? We'll start to lose our job, homes, loved ones, health, freedom. And then all of a sudden, now we want to start to prioritize what's really important, or we start to think about it, because when things are going good, we're not thinking about prioritizing anything. Everything is good. What we got to prioritize anything for? But when things are going bad, when you're in that night season and things are starting to be taken from you and you're starting to feel the pressure and the weight, it's like, what now? What now? And you begin to just reevaluate life, and you begin to say, it's not until you lose freedom that you know that freedom was important to you. It's not until you lose that loved one that you realize that loved one was pretty darn important to me. It's not until you lose that job that you realize that job that I didn't care for in the first place had a means to an end. It's not until you lose health that you realize, you know what? I really needed to be able to feel good in my body, or walk, or see, or hear, that I don't have those things anymore, that you realize that should have been a priority for me. But this is the thing, right? So this particular psalmist in Psalms 119, this is what he says. This is what he says. Psalms 119, starting at verse 57, and it says, "Thou art my portion, O Lord. I have said that I would keep thy words. I entreated thy favor with my whole heart. Be merciful unto me according to thy word. I thought on my ways and turned my feet unto thy testimonies. Look, he began to go through some things. As he was going through the things, he realized that the Lord is his portion. He realized that the Lord is his portion. He realized that the Lord is everything that he needed. He's everything that I need. You're my portion. You're all that I need. You're my health, my strength, my support, my everything. He realized while he was going through things, pressured, he realized that God was his portion. Is God your portion? He's definitely my portion. And I had to learn it in the midnight hour, because remember, we talked about the midnight hour is when it's the most dark at night. The darkest point of night is midnight. And so at his midnight, he realized that the Lord is his portion. He realized that the Lord is his provision, that the Lord is his security, his inheritance, his everything. Everything else was being stripped. And he realized where his source was. And so he goes back and he says, oh Lord, I have said that I would keep thy words. I said that I would. I said that I would be obedient. But somewhere I fell off. He says, I entreated thy favor with my whole heart. Be merciful unto me according to thy word. So now he's trying to come back to him and he's like, have mercy on me. Please forgive me, because I have been out of sorts. I got my priorities jacked up, and I'm beginning to realize that it's you. It says, I thought on my ways and turned my feet unto thy testimonies. I started to remember where you've brought me from before. I remember the testimonies. I remember what you've said, and I remembered how you've delivered me each and every last single time. So I had to turn my feet back on the path that I needed to be on in order for me to make this thing. Verse 60 says, I made haste and delayed not to keep thy commandments. He had to turn back and get back to God in order to get what it was that he needed, his provision. He's starting to prioritize. So now that everything is haywire, nothing seems to be in order, he knows I got to get back to God, because that's my source. That's my everything. And then it says, here's the kicker, because he says in 61, the bands of the wicked have robbed me, but I have not forgotten thy law. The bands of the wicked have robbed me, but I have not forgotten thy law. Look, the evil ones are coming for me. They're either trying to imprison him, beat him. Something is happening to where he feels like he's being bombarded up against, and he's having to prioritize some things in the midnight hour. And then he goes, at midnight I will rise to give thanks unto thee because of thy righteous judgments. At midnight, at midnight I will rise to give thanks unto thee because of thy righteous judgments. He remembered, look, I can't do this by myself. And at my darkest hour, when my enemies thought they had me, at my darkest point of my trauma, I'm going to turn back and I'm going to do everything that you told me to do. I'm going to remember your laws. I'm going to remember your righteous judgments, because guess what? You have been merciful to me. You have always been the most consistent one in my life. When all others have failed and forsaken me, you have been there. So I just come to tell you what I started doing at midnight, waking up and just saying thank you at midnight, trying to prioritize and just give God the first fruit. I'm realizing that a night season will come. And what I did to just prioritize and give him thanks in the very beginning of my day was actually setting a precedence for when nighttime comes and it's just dark, that I remember where my source is. I remember who my portion is. I remember the one that has always been there for me and has never, ever left me. So it's time to start prioritizing before night comes. It's time to start prioritizing before midnight. So set your alarm clocks for midnight. Set your alarm clocks for midnight. Get up, tell God thank you, roll back over and go to sleep. Give him that first fruit. What you're doing naturally is going to prepare you for when you have that spiritual midnight, because the spiritual midnight is what's going to prove what's in you, and what's in you is going to come out. So what you start naturally doing, thanking God at midnight, when the darkness comes, when the enemy comes and surrounds you and bombards you, you'll be already prioritizing, and you'll be already ready to give God a thank you in the midst of everything that's going on, because you know that he's your source. You know that he's your everything. So that's all I've got for you today. Is it's time to start prioritizing. Prioritize your midnight, because you might not have another chance to do it. So start doing it now, because in the midst of it, you never know which way you're going to turn. So today, from this point on, prioritize the midnight before it comes. Give God his thank you in advance. Start now naturally. So spiritually, you'll fall in line and you'll know where everything happens and where it comes from. Again, my name is Angela Hendricks. I am the senior leader here at Remnant Mentality, and y'all are so welcome. Please check us out every day. Have a wonderfully blessed day. Until next time.